Hello.
Hi.
Hopefully people are back in.
Hopefully everyone, is getting this. So we first vote on a leader for this. Is that what we do?
Yep.
Okay. And then proceed with when I presented the plan for the meetings, I just already sent that out to everyone this morning. Just kind of go into that first meeting topic once a leader is selected.
Yeah. I think what we did this morning too was we just kind of went over the proposal,
Okay.
but that could be a framework, but if you feel like you want to use something else, that's fine too.
Okay. Let me pull it up then. Hi. Let's see. Sent. I'm just creating a Google Doc that has this proposal in it, so we can, or is that somewhere already?
I can share my screen if you
Oh,
want
okay.
when you get to that part, or I can
Okay.
email it to you if you want to share your screen.
Yeah.
We can't put anything in the chat because that doesn't become
Record.
recording or whatever. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'll email it to you. I'll email it to all of you.
Did we lose Aaron?
I just emailed him, so
Was he here before? Oh, there he is. Okay. Hi, Aaron. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Food Waste Prevention Committee. I think the first thing we do is vote on a leader for this committee. So I wrote the proposal. I am not attached to leading it if anyone else is up for it. Otherwise, I'm willing to if no one else is. I don't
I
know.
nominate Mitra.
Okay.
I second.
Accept the nomination. Any other nominees?
Just you.
Okay. Well, I guess all in favor of me leading this committee. Aye. Okay. Guess it's decided. All right. Well, thank you. I am very much committed to waste prevention, as I'm sure we all are. But the reason we chose food waste was because it was suggested by the city, and the city council is we're trying to focus on content that will be helpful to them specifically. And food waste, I'm a master recycler, and I know Karen, you are too. Is anyone else a master recycler here? Aaron and Daniel. Okay. So we've heard the spiel of this, and how many of you participate in the food waste system that we have in place here in Eugene okay, this is great because I would like to go over the proposal, but I also kind of wanted to start with an icebreaker, if we're okay with that, about what works in our personal experience with the system and what doesn't. Does anyone want to start?
Sure, I'll go. Okay, I think that what works is that it's really great to have yard debris and composting at the curb. I also think that it's really secondarily impacted Eugene, and that the more people that participate in that compost program, the less of a rat problem and a vermin problem that we have, because people There were different levels, people that were doing home composting really invited a lot of rats to come in. So, I mean, I don't know if that's happened or not, but hopefully it did. So I think that we're alleviating through the yard debris program on the composting in the yard debris. I think that there's some other unintended effects, which is, reducing yard debris in the storm drains, for example. Now, what doesn't work is that they started this out with the compostables were included in it, and then there's this big movement on all these compostable products, which are turning out to be really horrible. It's not just a sideways move, but it's actually creating some problems. And along with that, the compostable products looked like plastic to start, and people have a lot of wish cycling and guilt around garbage. So there was a huge amount of contamination, and then Rexius really took the bold step of saying that the only thing that could go in there was food waste. And I think that one of the challenges that we face in general, and especially in our local community, is getting people to understand some of the complexities of this, but also following the rules. The rules keep changing. So I think that what doesn't work is that I think there's still a fair amount of contamination. And then the third part of that is that I mean, I could go on and on, but in general, it's a really great thing. And I think that people need to pay more attention to what goes in there and maybe understand why. And the other part to reiterate is that the whole compostables thing has really created a big, huge problem. I want to point out, though, that I work on another committee that's an ad hoc citizens committee. And one of the things that we did over the last year was that we worked really hard with the city of Springfield and Santa because they didn't include food waste in their yard debris. And so finally now they can do that. But it seems like everybody I talked to in Springfield is not aware of that. So it's reaching people and having them adopt to changes. Anyway, sorry I went on and on. There I go, mute.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. Thanks, Danielle. Anyone would like to go next?
Aaron or me?
I can go next. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is that okay? So at my house, we did do home composting for a long time. I am thankful for the new system for sure. But doing it at home for so long, I think my family benefited from, having to process the material through its life cycle and deal with all the challenges that come if you're not regularly maintaining compost at your own home. I think the biggest challenge right now is just constantly reminding my son to take it out. He's a teenager, and it is his duty. And so that's the biggest challenge at our house so far. I mean, in terms of materials and things, we'd seen contamination and how it works at the back end. And so, yeah, really like the city system, and has made it much easier to be effective at it at our house.
Aaron, do you mind if I ask what it looked like, the contamination? What were some of your challenges from the home composting standpoint? Did you have rats? Like, what was
we didn't have rats. We had one of the bins that sits off the ground, and we live in a neighborhood that I haven't heard of many rat problems in our neighborhood. At least we didn't see it at our house. So we had one off the ground. It was contained. It was locked up. And so we didn't really have any pest problems.
Was that
and,
like those black
yeah.
ones that they have? Okay.
Yeah. So we'd spin it, and then it went right into our garden beds or around our plants. But it takes some dedication and work to spin that thing every week, and to manage moisture and all the rest. And it's a bit of a labor of love, isn't it? And it was great, and we still do it a bit. to feed our garden beds. But not having to work so hard now and being able to utilize the city system is fantastic.
Thanks, Erin. Devin?
Yeah, so growing up in Eugene, like we composted at home, but it was there, that was before there was like things to put compost in, right? You could just use a trash bin or whatever and people would dump it. But like, so my mom, I grew up in a house where the compost went right out into a pile next to the garden, you know, and that was my job as a teenager. And I didn't like it. And I had to be told every time to do it. Just like I tell my daughter and you tell your son. She knows that she's supposed to do it, but she has to know when it's full. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So that I'm okay with that. But so I grew up always composting, and then I moved to Illinois after, you know, after graduate school, whatever, when there wasn't a lot of me composting going on. There was a lot of me eating going on. So, right. So then I was really, really fortunate to live in an eco plan development where we had a independent organic farm on the property of like this 350 home subdivision. And they actually came to our house and picked up a 5-gallon bucket of compost once a week. Like literally picked it up, dumped it in a truck and took it to the farm. And the other cool thing about that neighborhood is we had a K-8 charter, public charter school with an environmental charter where my daughter went. And they all composted in their classrooms because they didn't have, there was not a cafeteria system. They all ate in their classrooms and brought their lunch. So the farm would literally come and pick up all the compost from the school as well and bring it to the farm, and the kids would help. And so she grew up like getting hammered with composting, you know, with a system all that time. So then fast forward, we moved, you know, to Eugene 4 years ago. And finally, Eugene has it, like literally, I think I was waiting for my bin to be delivered. Like it was just starting in my neighborhood. And I was so excited. I just keep the small one under. Everybody pretty much knows I do have a garbage disposal too, which helps with the husband problems and and the willingness for him to find the what goes in the compost, what goes in where, and all this constant thing that he's being reminded of. But I mean, I compost like everything, but into the shared bin. I don't have the kind of yard where I could have a garden. It's shady, it's sloped, that kind of thing. So all of mine goes into the yard waste bin. And I think the biggest challenge for me, understanding completely what Karen said about the compostables and what a nightmare they are. They're a nightmare like in the recycling and the commingled too. Huge problem in the commingled because people put them in there because they think compostable means recyclable, which is something we might want to think about later when we talk about communication to the public and what maybe some of their barriers might be, is just even understanding what goes in and why. But I will say my yard waste bin is disgusting. I mean, and I don't have a hose in the most of, you know, only in the warm months do I have a hose available in that part to clean out my bin. So I will fully say that it is rarely cleaned out. And I'm kind of shocked, you know, they say things on like, if you go to Santa Pac or Apex, like freeze your compost before you put it in and put it in at the last possible second. I don't know. I've got 2 freezers and I don't have room to put all of my compost in the freezer. And Santa Pac picks up every 2 weeks. So that's like 2 weeks. I mean, that's like a refrigerator full. I mean, I really put everything I possibly can in there. So I find that to be a little bit of a disconnect between actually functionally using and the advice that they're giving. They also say, you know, what's the other one? That's not the freezing, something else about, oh, you're supposed to put a layer of yard waste and then put your compost on it and then put another layer of yard waste. And like, I hardly have any yard waste. I live in the woods. Like I don't fill up my bin with yard waste, but maybe once or twice a year. So I feel like that's also advice that's confusing to people and hard to do. So my thoughts is there's a lot of these weird little instructions that are barriers to people because it just seems too hard. Like, what, I got to do this, and then I got, oh, and that, and then, oh, I'm supposed to hide it in the yard waste to keep my bin from getting gross. Now, understanding other municipalities, like in Portland, they do use the thin biodegradable bags. They're allowed to do that. And I know that we are not. And I think personally, and having talked to a lot of people about this, that's something that people want. They want to be able to put it in a little bag under their sink in the container, tidy it up, tie it up and put that in the yard waste. Like, I feel like that's something that is hard for people not to want. Is that the right way to say that? And I know that that's like, that would clean up a lot of things. There are complaints that I've heard from neighbors in my capacity. They think that vermin come to the bin and knock it over, get into it, but they don't really know the extent that the vermin comes to the open. Like my neighbor across the street, right?
Those are some big rats knocking over that bin.
My cat that we lost used to bring the rats from across the street and leave them at my bedroom door. Yay. But no, I think it's mostly the bears that knock over my compost bin.
Oh, okay. Bears.
Yeah, there was one time a bear knocked over the bin, but there was salmon skin in there. I'm just gonna full disclosure. I would do it too if I was the bear. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at, is like an avid composter, avid food waste collector. That the barriers I see for people really are just this, like, it's too messy, it smells bad. How, why can't we put it in a little bag? So they want to put it in a little bag, and so they buy these bags, they put in the bag, and they put that in the compost, which is a contamination issue. I mean, in the big waste bin. So that's just sort of,
yeah,
that's it.
This is exactly what I'm trying to, so just to share mine are similar to yours, Devin. The gross factor. So I live in a multi-generational household, and I am the champion for sustainable practices in my home. And if there's fruit flies flying around my kitchen and my compost, my husband and my father-in-law are unhappy about that and discourage and will not participate. And I'm not the only one cooking and cleaning. So we also have a garbage disposal, but the gross factor, and you heard this about the teenagers too, participating. I mean, we are master recyclers, and we understand and have chosen to prioritize the environmental impact over, we're willing to go through a little effort and deal with gross stuff because we know the payoff, and we've chosen to prioritize the payoff. But for someone, if we're talking about the problem of people buying into this program, we need to kind of project and have compassion for like these folks who are like, I just throw it all in the trash. It's easy. It's not gross. It's like, how are we going to win those folks over to starting to use these systems? So we need to identify the barriers, and no matter how mundane or unimportant they might seem to us, they are real barriers for some people. Especially, we need to also find more information out about like what this experience is like for someone living in a apartment complex, and project and like look into that a little bit. But yeah, the gross factor, misinformation, contamination, and then on the system side, not allowing bags, which would reduce the gross factor. The space, suggesting my freezer does not have any space to put compost in whatsoever. That's so like the real like realistic is the system that they're suggesting to use actually fitting with people's lives? And can we talk to them about this? Like, One thing I can envision us maybe doing in this committee is doing some outreach. You know, we could talk to Kelly Bell, we could talk to Rexius, the people who process it, about some of this stuff. We could talk to the city about their experiences and their feedback from like multifamily household or housing, you know, what's going on. So this is something I can see in incorporating into this committee. Other thoughts on that? Karen?
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, the DEQ passed a law. They did this work in 2017, and it looks like the law requirement went into effect July 1st, that commercial governments and multifamily housing tenants must be included in the Opportunity Recycle Act. But it looks like here, and I can send you guys this from the DEQ, the passage of the Recycling Modernization Act, which just got passed, delayed the requirement to 2026. And so the requirement says that cities over 4,000 people must have access to recycling. So with this Opportunity Recycle Act, I mean, we'll have to find out more details about it, but that all these different things are going to happen, and so it should be a lot better. And then the county just passed the material recovery facility thing too. But I mean, those are things that won't happen for implementation for at least 10 years. The other thing that I want to say is that Donnie Addison, who also is a master recycler and was the most recent manager of the Zero Waste program at the University of Oregon, has started a job with the city, and his focus is going to be composting. So maybe we can invite him to the next meeting and talk to him, because I also have issues about opportunities for more food waste recovery in town, and also the issue of large scale events like the football games that do not compost anything. So that's what I was going to tell you.
Well, I work with Donnie already, because now I'm the Fix It Fair coordinator for the Eugene Toolbox project, and he's like the person who's contracts me through to do these. So I am absolutely happy to reach out to him and see if he would want to contribute or come to one of our meetings. Also, I do think it would be so when did you all complete the master recycling program? Mine was like 2022 or 21, I think 22 winter, or maybe it was 21. What about you all?
I'm like 2018 or something in there. I don't know.
Aaron, I'm not hearing you quite. Can you?
Early maybe 2012, 2013.
Oh, there you
Nothing.
go.
No sound.
Yeah, your sound was low, and now it
was like breaking up, like not low, but like bad signal or bad chord sound.
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe you're 2012, is that what you said? 2013. What about you, Devin?
I don't even know what it is.
Oh yeah. Oh, we have a local
I was waiting for
program.
an opportunity to ask.
Okay. So Lane County Waste Management offers a program to folks, and they pay, I think they pay for it, is that correct? Where they take you through classes, citizens who are interested in learning about the intricacies and of our recycling system here locally. And we do fun visits like to the transfer station and the Short Mountain God, I'm spacing it landfill.
Yeah.
And various things, and then we hear presentations on vermiculture, and we took a visit to Rexius, and I mean it's pretty cool, I have to say.
I've done things like that in other areas, but not here, because I live right next door to a landfill, actually.
Well, probably know all about it then.
Well, I
Um,
mean, things change, but I would to jump on what Karen was saying. Karen, the DQ thing though is just about recycling, right? All that I've read through that stuff, which is way too much stuff. That is the Modernization Act is insane. Um, there's nothing about food waste, right? Okay? That's unfortunate, but there you go.
I forgot that part. So they didn't address that in there. Thanks for bringing
No.
that.
Well, no, I just wanted to be clear that I understood. That was my understanding. It's kind of a bummer, but they are doing a huge amount there. It's nuts what they're doing. And then I don't know if you guys, Aaron wasn't, but Karen, were you there for when we had the presentation from Short Hill Mountain in that facility? Yeah, that was a nail biter. I watched the county vote on that, and it was really like, it's a challenge. Lane County is pretty interesting with like this, how big it is and the scope and the different types of micro communities that fall within this giant county and what's important too. So that's another like outreach situation. I mean, we're Eugene, but like the different types of information that people are getting, it was so crazy how much false information was being passed around among the county commissioners. It was really disheartening, honestly.
how did the vote, I might be ridiculous to not know this, but what
No,
happened?
no, that's fine. I had a couple embers or irons in the fire to pay attention to that particular one, and that's why I know. It was 3-2.
It passed.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
thank God. Like,
Well,
it's
I
gonna be a
received
cool thing.
I received a email from my garbage hauler specifically.
Apex.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might get in trouble because they used everyone's personal email addresses. I have Santapack now. I dumped Apex. Sorry. Okay.
Nice pun. Sorry.
Garbage humor. Because they don't have the recycle box like Santapack has. And so I ended up
Yeah.
going through a lot of communications with them about how I felt about that. But yeah, they kind of overstepped and used a lot of past Apex as well. People that had no longer used Apex, they went and dug out their emails and sent them.
Oh,
I know
wow.
someone lives in New York City now and got an email from Lane Apex.
Whoa.
How she should contact our neighborhood association and tell them that they should not allow this to happen because of all these crazy reasons. Like, well, you read it. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
really, really non-reasons. So anyway, that's kind of
Yeah.
daunting.
Well, yeah. So I'm going to take a moment here and let's just go over the proposal real quick together and look at the scope of work for this committee. Is everyone okay to do that for a minute here? Okay, I'm going to share my screen. This one, yeah. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see this? Okay. Can everybody see it?
Can you make it a little bigger? Like zoom in?
Okay, let's see. Oh, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. The focus of this committee is to better understand the barriers for participation in composting and multifamily housing and identify opportunities. And not just multifamily, but I think that's why I did a little inquiry into like what our personal experiences are. I think it's a good place to start with, we are the people who most wholly buy in to this, and we can identify barriers within our own experience. So then we can kind of expand on those. And okay, so meeting one is understand the barriers of why composting and multifamily housing has such low participation, how to approach and motivate property managers of multifamily to set up composting and support it operationally. Meeting two, research a successful composting program at a multifamily unit somewhere else. Are there stellar examples elsewhere, and what can be replicated or learned from them. Needing 3, research successful behavior changing campaigns in multifamily and single family housing. That might be, okay. Meeting 4, look at data on multifamily buildings in Eugene and which types, student, affordable, market rate, other, might be good ones to focus on, and what could be a strategy for each type. This might be a good time to rope in Donnie, someone who has this data that we can, oh, Karen.
I just want to say that one thing I know, or I think I know, is that when Sarah Grimm was at the county, so now it's Angie, they did a study on multifamily
Okay.
stuff, and they have already looked at this. And so, I mean, I think that it would be really helpful if maybe we could have like Angie and Donnie come to our next meeting
Yeah.
and talk a little bit about this, because as I'm looking at this now, I haven't worked doing this officially in, gosh, it's 4 years already, but I told you that I worked on that DEQ committee, and then that didn't include composting. I know that the county did a big study on multifamily housing. It'd be good to have the city come talk about it too, because even though I forgot about that, Devin, that it's not included in the Recycling Modernization Act. It is a big part of the city focus because of the greenhouse gas inventory studies that said that the landfill is the largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the county, and that food waste is the biggest culprit. So it'd be good to find out what work has been done in the county. It would just catch us all up between Angie and Donnie to have that information, because I think a lot of it's out there. And ultimately, I'm trying to, as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, what is it that we could actually do? And if the city is already focusing on this, and I think they are, what will change with Donnie? Because there was a huge hole in the staffing, and this is something that will be part of his focus as well. Something I know about multifamily housing as I'm looking at this is that they're a nightmare. If you guys are traveling around town, just pull over and look at a dumpster area at one of these fourplexes or apartment complexes. It's a friggin' nightmare. And I think that that's one of the challenges is that trying to get the landlords to do something about this, and the contamination rate is through the roof. But yet, when I worked at the U of O, I had students coming in all the time complaining that they didn't have a way to recycle theirs.
Yeah, actually, I just
Tough.
I attended. Oh, sorry.
Go.
I attended the AOR, Association of Organ Recyclers conference, and I sat in on a session on this exact subject, and I did find a report or some studies that were done on this exact subject that we could bring to one of these future meetings. I'll try to drum up that information. Devin, you had your hand raised.
Yeah. I guess I'm confused. So I don't know the answer to this question. So are there haulers that will pick up from multifamily, that will pick up yard waste from a multifamily building? I mean, is that even beyond the landlord wishing that it would happen or organizing something, right? Will haulers actually collect? That's my.
Yeah, that's a good question. We need to figure out what's actually happening. So
Right.
so here are the moving parts that I'm hearing, and maybe we could create a strategy based on these partners that we should be checking in with. So we've already identified Donnie from the city, Angie from the county, or possibly Kelly, Rexius as the processor of this material. I think getting some information from them on so when I was a master recycler, I learned about the contamination and the compostables issue, like getting more clear on that, because if communication is a barrier, we need to get the story straight so that we can create clear communication or suggest what that might look like. And then the haulers play a part, and we know just from our brief discussion between Sanapac and Apex here that might look different between haulers. So what services are being offered currently? How do they differ from place to place in terms of multifamily housing? I'm sure that has something to do with like their actual arrangement for their garbage situation and like their space availability and all kinds of things. So we have all these moving parts, this puzzle pieces. How do you envision them fitting into, and these meetings, the topics I just kind of made up based on, what seemed right, but there's no need to, well, maybe there is. Danielle could probably clarify if we have to stick with this exact agenda. But it sounds like either touching base with some of these people or these organization, these components of this big puzzle. So whether we do that by inviting them to present to our committee, or each of us approaching someone and trying to get the lowdown, bringing it back to the group, or both, doing some research on examples of success, what those might look like.
I think if you scroll down, Mitra,
Yeah.
staff had agreed, like, Devron, waste prevention team agreed to attend a committee meeting. A
Oh,
staff
great.
member from that committee, or from that work team, so,
Okay.
I think that would be a good place to start, like maybe at the next meeting, inviting Donnie,
Okay.
or I can confirm with Devron if his focus is food waste prevention, then I'm sure that's probably who she'd want to send.
Okay.
And then if you guys want to reach out to Lane County,
Mhm.
that's fine. I think that
I'm
would
happy
be
to do
good.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good use of time.
Mm-hmm. So would you suggest, Danielle, that we get someone from the city and the county both to come to like the next meeting and just give us their perspective on it? Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan of action. I know we only have about 15 minutes left in this. I'm happy to reach out to both. I work closely with both of those parties unless someone else feels like comfortable doing outreach to someone. To invite, we should probably schedule the next meeting so we have a date to ask them about. Does that sound fair? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good, unless Danielle's gonna reach out to the city people.
I would be happy to reach out to Donnie / Devron.
Okay, I'm happy to also. Like I'm gonna talk to Donnie next week, so I'm happy to do that. But-
I'm just wondering, in terms of what we're trying to accomplish here. I mean, I think that, I just quick Googled multifamily stuff, and it talks about how to set it up and how to participate and stuff. But, if the landlords aren't on board, that's
Yeah.
a little bit of a problem. But having Donnie and Angie come, then I think that we could have a really good discussion
Mhm.
about this and where the county and the city is going on.
Yeah.
And then after that, maybe determine what else we need to do. I know because I talked to Donnie recently, and one of the first things he did at his job was he went out to Rexius,
Mhm.
and they're getting a lot of contaminated byproduct even in the composting process. So I don't know. I think that we should just have a meeting, do that, and then figure out from there. Because if we find that the city and the county is already working this out, maybe that's the thing we can ask them, how can we assist them? And
Yeah, that's a great idea, Karen. Yeah. Because I mean, ultimately, if you can see at the bottom of this, our intention, the output we hope to produce is to provide a report revealing our findings. And the findings are really just about the current situation. And if we go back up to our purpose, is to understand the barriers for participation in composting. So if we can identify the barriers, maybe we could brainstorm a few ideas of working around those or considering those when it comes to multifamily. Oh, Devin, go ahead.
I think one thing we could consider is, okay, if we identify the barriers, what we could do is reach out to the Education and Outreach Committee and try to figure out, okay, so this is what we found. How can we use the Education Outreach Committee to help reduce these barriers that we found? You know, and sort of try to work two committees together. That would be
Yeah.
my thoughts on that, since rather than us try to do the outreach, or, you know, or try to get that far, but we could, like, to me, that goal, I'm seeing it, and correct me if you guys have different idea for sure, but like, just educating ourselves about, okay, because we don't know the answers to that one question I asked. So if we get some speakers in to tell us what's going on, we can, you know, brainstorm, like you said, but also maybe get in touch with the Education and Outreach Committee and say, okay, maybe here's the barriers we think there are, but maybe they could do like a mini survey that says, what are the barriers, if any, do you have to home composting? You know, and just see what people have to say at events or things like that.
Yeah, gathering
We'd
more
still be meeting
information.
our goal.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. I mean, we could definitely produce a report for the city council on the barriers we've identified through the scope of this committee, but then we could continue to gather that information through our education and outreach committee to deepen that understanding. And then maybe at some point produce some suggestions of like how to do workarounds or pathways, yeah, to address some of those barriers.
Right, because like a question I have is like, what really is the reason that we cannot have the thin bin liners? Like, what is it, a temperature issue? Like, are we just not big enough? Like making hot enough, big enough piles? Is
What are
it
you talking about?
the little tiny thin, they're really thin, they're biodegradable. It's not like necessarily compostable, but they're biodegradable bin liners. Like all of Portland uses them.
All of them have plasticizers in them.
So why is it okay that, I mean, this is rhetorical unless you have an answer. Like, why is it they use them up there and we can't use them down here?
Okay, so it's economy of scale is that it's such a gigantic system that they can figure out how to separate those out. I mean, I will send you a statement that Rexius put out when they stopped doing this. And I also know that like there's zero waste places all over the place. Like Berkeley is very zero waste. The University of Berkeley UC Berkeley claims that they're all zero waste. Well, a large portion of their campus uses all those compostable products, and the amount of contamination is under control, kind of, because of the large scale that the composter is, that they get enough good product out of there. It's kind of economy of scale kind of a thing. So I'll send you the Rexius note on composting. And I mean, that is a good question, but it's very frustrating because the whole zero waste movement is anchored on using these compostable products. So that would be my educated guess. It's just the economy scale, the compost, and the percentage of contamination because it's seen as a contaminant, anything that's not an organic.
When reflecting on what I learned in my Master Recyclers class when we did our Rexius tour, is that it's not a problem that these compostable things are in there, but it's that they resemble visually so many other things. So like, how is one supposed to identify visually the difference between a regular plastic bag and a compostable, bag, like they don't, and then, so it's like if they are creating a system on their end to free up, to clean up, to decontaminate their waste stream, like it's like once they let one thing in, it just is like opening things up for everything else that's not actually compostable. And so it's the being able to discern the difference between the actual compostable and the not compostable in order to clean it up is what I understood. But that could be, that's just my, Aaron, do you have any knowledge of this? Like,
Not on this particular issue. No, I don't. The only thing I would add though is,
it's hard to hear you, Aaron, sorry.
yeah, I'm having internet issues. It's the internet. It's my connection right now. So sorry about that.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, well, I think it'd be very interesting to hear from the city and the county on this subject. They'll probably know exactly what it is.
So yeah, so should we try to do two things, maybe like come up with some questions that we want to ask,
Mhm.
like, and then schedule our meeting?
Yeah.
Like,
So
Yeah, and I just looked up Portland and they specify the BPI certified compostable bag. So the reason why that can go in there is because it's the approved bag that doesn't have plasticizers in it, and that but all these different compostable bags aren't necessarily BPI certified, and some of them have plasticizers in them, blah blah blah. But I'll send you the note that Rexius put out on that. And I do think that it would be helpful to talk to Kelly Bell, and maybe that's something you could do on the side, Mitra. Just
Okay.
give her a call.
well, I can invite Kelly. I'll just email Kelly and Angie and say, hey, would one of you like to come join our next meeting? And we can come up with a couple questions like Devin suggested to send them when I do the invites, that they can come
Okay.
prepared to answer to us. So let's start by just coming up with a date. What date works well for everybody in approximately a month from now? How's like the 12th of January? Similar time, 11:30? Karen disappeared.
whoops.
I am sorry because
Oh, you're getting your calendar.
I'm
Okay,
gonna
sorry.
be kind of a pain in the neck because I am going to Mexico January 11th through the 29th. So that kind of
Okay. Well, maybe we do it before the 11th then.
that
Like, what
sounds
about
fine.
the 10th?
I can do the 10th.
How's the 10th? I work until 2, but I could do like 2:30.
That's fine. What about Tuesday the 9th?
Wait, am
Let me take a look, because I have access to Donnie's calendar, so I could just preemptively kind of, we could try to pick a
Okay.
time that works for him. What's his last name?
Addison.
What is his title?
Waste prevention
Analyst?
specialist. Or,
Is
yeah,
it
there you go.
analyst? Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Tuesday the 9th? What are you seeing, Danielle?
I'm pulling it up. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah,
How's everybody?
he looks like his afternoon is open.
Okay.
And let me maybe just double check, because I don't know if Deveron might want to come too,
Mm-hmm.
or like instead, I don't know. So her calendar is super busy though, so but she's presumably potentially open in the afternoon. Like, what did you say, 2:30?
Oh, on the 9th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would work for me.
Oh wait, I'm not. 3 o'clock or
Sure.
1 o'clock?
3 o'clock is better for me. How
Okay.
about you, Aaron?
3 o'clock on Tuesday, January 9th.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'm putting it
And I think that this is a worthwhile thing to explore and educate us on. But and then maybe what our recommendation is also includes is opportunities, because
Mhm.
my little subcommittee, citizen committee, the Citizens for Responsible Use of Plastics, has tried for years to get the city to take on a large event waste recovery ordinance and mandate that large events, including the football games, would participate in this and include composting. And if the city is going after food waste and composting, it seems like that these bigger things are low hanging fruit. I think that the university is a big hit, and then any kind of large events. But at the same time, part of the problem is that multifamily would be a great place to do it as well. But the contamination issues are ridiculous, and the turnover is really huge. And until they make it a mandatory thing as part of the realtor agreements or the owner agreements, it becomes a very difficult situation.
So, Devin?
Just really quick to comment on what Karen said about what U of O, the situation with the U of O, and us focusing our time and energy on U of O things. And Danielle, maybe you can comment on this too. We spent an awful lot of time on this, the letter from the commission about the heating option for the U of O, and we got a lot of pushback. Unfortunately, even though that's one of the biggest emitters of greenhouse gases in the city, they have a separate, you have to go through IGR for that with them. And so what happens there is pretty much city council, at least the meeting with the mayor and Councilor Semple, was kind of like, well, I don't know if they're going to listen to us or not. So that was kind of my take home from that. So I don't want to spend too much of this committee's time thinking about, unfortunately, Karen, it's not that I disagree with you. It's just like sporting events that are U of O based, anything that U of O is doing with their composting. I mean, we could get information and know about it, but really, like, we're not going to be able to make recommendations, I don't think. I mean, in the scope of this, I think we should focus on the multifamily. I don't know, Danielle, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of gonna say similar. I mean, U of O is outside of the city's jurisdiction. There's relationships, and conversations that happen with the U of O at a much higher level than me, because they're such a big partner, but also outside of the city, realm. And I can't remember the specifics, but I know when I brought this committee up to Devron, that there was interest in forming this committee, she said something about like, it's not going to be helpful if they want to focus on large events. And I can't remember the specifics of why, but I think if there is still interest in doing that, I'd like to have her come and sort of answer that question directly. And it makes me think, like, do we need Lane County also to come in January? Because I know Devron, like the city and the county's waste prevention teams are super, super tight. I'm wondering if like just the city people will be able to answer most of these questions. And it'll just be like easier to not have like, 3 or 4 people come to answer questions, but just like 1 or 2, that being like Devron and Donnie.
Yeah, that might be true. Or maybe we could reserve the next meeting for the county if that seems like, because I did want to acknowledge that someone brought up that the county did do research into this exact subject. So if they have a report, but again, I know the city and the county work together. So very quickly, we only have a minute. What questions do we want to kind of let them know to be prepared to answer? Do we just want to throw some out real quick?
We don't have time really to talk about that. So what about if we each send in some questions and you can compile them? Because I think that you're right. We can get that county information from the city as well. So I'll send you some questions, and I'm also going to call the DEQ and talk to the people that did the multifamily housing thing and ask them about compost, because that's Devron keeps talking about the Recycling Modernization Act, but compost isn't included in it. And number two, the large events thing is kind of like beaten to a pulp because we worked on that for a couple of years and they even had a
Yeah.
work session on it. And she kept saying that they're doing a great job, but
Yeah, Deveron really championed that. I know she did a presentation at the Association of Oregon Recyclers conference about it as well. So okay, send questions to the group. We can compile that. We will do an invitation to Donnie and Deveron or Danielle. The fact that you put that on their calendar, do you want to do the request or do you want me
To
to?
who? To Donnie and Deveron?
Deveron, yeah.
I'll reach out to them.
Okay, great. So we'll come up with questions, and then if we can find resources on studies or information data, we can just share that via email. Stay informed for later discussions. Okay. Thank you all.
happy holidays.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
Yeah, happy
See you on the
holidays
ninth.
to everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.